Chapter 1. With trembling hands, my grandfather, Gerald Gallagher, pulled out 3 matches. Everyone in the room was confused. Someone asked, has the old man lost his mind? He's seriously taking out 3 matches as a family heirloom? Another chimed, are those matches meant to humiliate Vera? That's way too much, even for him. Gerald's voice was hoarse and weak as he said, between this multi-billion-dollar inheritance and these 3 matches, you two can only choose one. Renee, you're the oldest, so you go first. A chill ran through my entire body, and I suddenly realized I had been reborn. Remembering the tragic fate of my family in my past life, I instinctively turned to look at my parents. My vision instantly blurred from the tears. In my past life, I had chosen the fortune. However, Vera Gallagher, my adopted sister, had used the 3 matches to make her wishes, which led to my parents' deaths and my own miserable end in a remote mountain town. The pain from those final moments still had not fully faded. I was not about to make the same mistake twice, so I chose the 3 matches without hesitation. Everyone in the room froze. Someone mumbled, has Renee Gallagher completely lost it? Those are just 3 regular matches. It's not like they're made of gold. That's a multi-billion-dollar inheritance, and she's just handing it over to someone who was adopted. If Renee wants to play the saint, she should at least pick the right time. I can't even watch this. It's driving me nuts. If she doesn't know how to choose, let me do it for her. My parents rushed over and tugged at my sleeve. My father said, Renee, did you pick the wrong one by accident? My startup just went public, and Mom's health hasn't been great. We need the money. My mother chimed in, sweetheart, we know you have a good heart and always think about Vera, but even if you chose the inheritance, you could still give half to Vera later. There's no need to do this. They tried their best to persuade me, but I did not waver. I insisted, I want the 3 matches. Vera lost her parents when she was little, and her life has been harder than mine. I don't want a single dollar of the inheritance. It's all hers. Vera was so happy she could barely contain herself. While she signed the inheritance papers with a huge grin plastered on her face, she pretended to thank me. Thank you, Renee, for being so generous. Don't worry, when you're broke and begging on the streets one day, I'll make sure to toss a couple of dollar bills your way. My parents were so angry that they could not even form words. I had spent 3 full years at my grandfather's side while he was bedridden, taking care of him without complaint. Vera, on the other hand, could not stand being around him. She would only ever pop in during the holidays, looking for gifts or some cash. That was why, in every lifetime, my grandfather had given me the priority to choose first. I ignored the mockery around me. After all, they did not know that the matches could grant wishes. That night, I heard my parents tossing and turning in their bedroom. Mom whispered, what on earth was Renee thinking? We raised her for over 20 years, and she turned out to be a fool. Dad grumbled, the creditors are coming tomorrow to collect the debt. If we can't pay them back, we'll lose this house. My grandfather had always run a strict household with the expectation that every generation would stand on their own 2 feet. Dad's startup had been struggling since day one, and he had racked up serious debt from high-interest loans. The plan had been to use my grandfather's inheritance to bail him out, but I had taken the matches instead. After getting the inheritance, Vera immediately went out partying and blowing money. Expecting her to pay off my parents' debts was nothing but a fantasy. Seeing my parents unable to sleep all night, my heart ached. So, I quietly struck the first match. I wish for Mom and Dad to become rich overnight. After making the wish, I felt satisfied and crawled into bed. However, early the next morning, Mom's scream jolted me awake. It's over. Everything's over. The company suddenly caught fire, and everything burned to the ground. The flames even spread to the neighboring stores. We're going to have to pay tens of millions in damages. Dad crouched on the floor, clutching his head, his whole body shaking uncontrollably. I tightly gripped the charred matchstick in my hand, and my entire body went cold. How did all of this happen? Chapter 2. Mom was already at her breaking point, and the moment she saw me standing there in a daze, everything she had been holding in came pouring out. It's all your fault for choosing those stupid matches. Matches, fire. It's over. This was meant to happen. If you had chosen the inheritance, none of this would have happened. Mom broke down in tears, while Dad silently pulled her into his arms and closed his eyes in exhaustion, saying nothing. My head spun as I wondered how it ended up like that. I had clearly wished for my parents to get rich overnight, so why had they suddenly gone bankrupt instead? Was it because my rebirth had changed something? Did the wishes come true in reverse? At that thought, I rushed back to my bedroom and grabbed the second match. However, before I could make a wish, the front door was kicked open with a loud bang. A man shouted, well, look at that. We ran all the way over here chasing what we're owed, and you people are just sitting around living your best life? This is your final warning. If the money isn't paid by tomorrow, I'll chop off your hands. Word is your oldest daughter's real pretty. Maybe she can make it up to us another way. After that, they grabbed wooden sticks and smashed my house into rubble. The high-interest loans had not yet been paid off, and the sudden fire had left my parents owing tens of millions in damages. With no other choice, my parents called Vera. They called 10 times before she finally picked up, unhurried. Sweetheart, we're in trouble right now. Grandpa left you a multi-billion-dollar inheritance, and we're not asking for much. We just need $30 million, okay? If we can't pay the debt, the collectors are going to chop off our hands. On Vera's social media, the emerald necklace she had just bought was worth $50 million. However, when she heard my parents begging, she sighed as if she had no choice. Mom, Dad, it's not that I don't want to help, but Grandpa left me the inheritance, and I can't just spend it however I want. If you want to blame someone, blame Renee for choosing those 3 matches. My parents tried to say more, but Vera hung up. Right after that, she posted another update online. It was a post of herself cradling a little dog wearing a tiny, solid gold crown. There was a caption with it. Money should only be spent on what's worth it. My parents trembled with anger. To gather enough money for the payment due tomorrow, I sold all the trading cards and celebrity autographs I had collected since childhood. I even sold my phone and replaced it with a cheap second-hand one worth a few $100s. Mom sold her wedding jewelry, and Dad sold the car. After scraping together several $1,000,000, Dad's frown finally eased a little. He said, "It's not everything, but it should be enough to hold off the loan sharks for now." Mom also calmed down and apologized to me, her tone sincere. "Renee, I lost my temper with you this morning, and that wasn't fair. None of this is your fault. I'm sorry." My throat tightened, and I nearly lost it right there. I mumbled, maybe I really did make the wrong choice. Dad gently patted my shoulder and said, "Hey, what's done is done. Let it go. We can find ways to earn more money, but people are what matter. If losing all this meant seeing who Vera really is, then maybe it was worth it. To think we felt so sorry for her, took her in out of the goodness of our hearts, and this is what we got in return." Dinner that night was just some leftover bread and whatever we had in the fridge, but the 3 of us sat together and somehow made it feel like enough. Dad talked about his plans for the future, and hope slowly returned to his eyes. "As long as I've got 2 hands and the will to work, I'll build it all back." That night, I clenched my teeth and lit the second match. I wish for Mom and Dad to become disabled and live in poverty for the rest of their lives. If the first wish had worked in reverse, then maybe wishing for the opposite would flip it back. I held on to that hope, squeezing the spent matchstick so hard, and I refused to close my eyes. I was terrified of falling asleep and waking up to another disaster, like yesterday. I did not need wealth or luxury, I just wanted my parents to be healthy and okay. By 5 a.m., exhaustion finally dragged me under without warning. My body slumped, and my mind went dark for just a moment. When I woke up again, everything around me was silent. My heart pounded wildly as I quietly walked to my parents' bedroom door and peeked inside. Seeing that they were sleeping peacefully, I finally let out a breath of relief. However, just as I turned to go back to my room, 2 piercing screams exploded from my parents' bedroom at the same time. I rushed in and flung the door open, and I almost fainted from what I saw.